Many men believe they can reach success on their own, without relying on anyone, as if willpower were enough to build an extraordinary life. But we have learned that no man grows in isolation. We are all mirrors shaped by those around us. Carl Jung discovered that if we want to elevate our level of success, we must first elevate the level of our relationships, because the men we spend time with determine the thoughts we allow, the goals we pursue, and the standards we maintain. If we surround ourselves with mediocrity, we eventually justify mediocrity. But if we stay close to greatness, we begin to feel uncomfortable being less than what we can be. It is not about pride, but about energy. The right people do not entertain us. They challenge us. They do not soothe us. They push us. They do not tell us what we want to hear, but what we need to hear. If we want a different life, we must stay close to men who think differently, because our environment shapes our destiny more than we imagine. And when we choose wisely who enters our world, our potential expands without limits. Life transforms when we realize our environment is not neutral. Every person we interact with, every conversation we hold, every energy we let into our mental space influences us, shapes us, programs us. No one escapes the influence of their surroundings. The only choice we truly have is whether that influence lifts us up or pulls us down. Most men underestimate this principle and surround themselves with people without purpose, without direction, without hunger for growth. They spend time with those who complain, criticize, and justify their failures, unaware that these attitudes end up contaminating their own minds. Because what we constantly hear becomes what we think, and what we think repeatedly becomes what we do. Our environment does not just reflect our mindset, it feeds or destroys it. Every conversation has the power to strengthen our confidence or weaken it. Every social circle we choose becomes the mirror of our own level of consciousness. If we spend our days with conformist men, our standards shrink to fit in. But if we relate to those who demand more from themselves, our minds will not allow us to fall behind. Human beings are designed to adapt. If we live with discipline, we grow. If we live with mediocrity, we sink. That is why one of the greatest acts of self-respect is rigorously choosing who enters our lives, not out of arrogance, but out of loyalty to our purpose. Because every person we keep close is either adding to our growth or draining our energy. And if we fail to distinguish this, our environment will end up defining the direction of our lives. Success is not absorbed by chance. It is cultivated through proximity. When we stay close to men with ambition, focus, and vision, our minds inevitably begin to expand. We hear ideas we had never considered, perceive reality from a different angle, and start questioning our own limits. Our environment begins to elevate our thinking, not because it forces us, but because it inspires us. That is the difference between a common circle and a growth circle. The first entertains us. The second propels us. In the first, we talk about people. In the second, we talk about projects. In the first, we waste time. In the second, we learn to multiply it. And that choice, although small, defines the course of our entire lives. We must surround ourselves with those who refuse to settle for less than excellence, with those who demand coherence, with those who do not applaud our laziness, but remind us of what we are capable of achieving. It may hurt at first, because growth is uncomfortable, but that discomfort shapes character. The men who make us question ourselves are not our enemies. They are the ones who help us evolve. We must not fear letting go of those who do not understand our vision. We are not rejecting them. We are choosing to advance. Life is not about being accepted, but about being authentic with our purpose. And our purpose needs clean air, elevated conversations, and conscious company. Because if our environment does not push us forward, it is silently holding us back. The kind of people we choose to share our lives with silently determines our destiny. No man can maintain thoughts of greatness if his environment constantly contradicts them. We may have clear goals, determination, and talent, but if we surround ourselves with those who justify their mediocrity, eventually our minds yield to their influence, because the human psyche seeks balance. And if our ideas do not match the environment we inhabit, we adjust to it to avoid feeling out of place. That is why so many men with potential end up dimming themselves. They preferred acceptance over evolution. It is not failure that destroys greatness. It is the comfort of the group. When the environment does not challenge us, it weakens us. That is why we must learn to recognize when a circle propels us and when it limits us, and have the courage to leave, even if it means being alone for a while. Solitude is not punishment. It is purification. It is the silence that clears our minds of outside influence and allows us to hear our own thoughts. Some stages of growth hurt precisely because they separate us from what was familiar. Most people fear being alone, but strong men know that solitude is the laboratory where purpose is refined. It is there where we learn to distinguish between noise and truth, between company and dependence. We must surround ourselves with people of value, not with people who simply fill our time. If every conversation we have does not leave us with a new idea, a higher perspective, or a renewed impulse, we are wasting our vital energy. Men of high value do not gather to waste time, but to multiply it. They speak of growth, vision, and purpose. They challenge each other, correct each other, teach each other, and even when their honesty stings, their presence lifts you. Jung would say that the discomfort you feel around people who think bigger than you is the psyche expanding beyond old limits. When you surround yourself with disciplined, successful men with clarity of purpose, it's natural to feel small at first. But that feeling isn't weakness. It's a reminder of what you're capable of becoming. The ego will warn you to step back so you don't feel inferior. Wisdom tells you to stay so you can grow. The ego wants to appear superior. The wise want to surpass themselves. That difference shapes the future you build. If you are the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. You must be where you're challenged, questioned, and reminded of how much more there is to learn. Men who grow among giants become giants. Excellence is contagious, but only to those humble enough to receive it. And there's something deeper. People of high value don't just inspire you. They hold you accountable. They won't let you hide behind excuses. If they see you quitting, they say it. If they see you drifting off course, they confront you. Their loyalty isn't to your ego, but to your purpose. That is the kind of friendship that is worth gold. The one that risks losing you if it means helping you become better. People of low value will try to keep you comfortable because your growth threatens them. The brighter you shine, the more it exposes what they refuse to face in themselves. Don't expect understanding from those who don't share your vision. If your environment no longer understands you, it's a sign you've already shifted to a higher level of awareness. Don't lower your frequency to fit in. Those meant to walk with you will rise with you. Those who can't will remain behind. That is the natural law of progress. Being selective with your circle isn't ego. It's strategy. Your mind is a temple, and not everyone should have access to it. Every interaction leaves a mark, a thought, an emotion, an influence. If you surround yourself with greatness, your mind begins to move with patterns of success. If you surround yourself with mediocrity, your mind begins to justify it. The difference between an average man and an extraordinary one is not only in what he does, but in who stands beside him while he does it. No one succeeds alone, yet not everyone deserves a place at your side. Stay close to those who speak of possibilities when you see limits, who demand effort when you settle, who believe in you even when you waver. Because these people don't just accompany you, they awaken the strongest version of you. One of the greatest mistakes men make is confusing company with progress. They think having many people around means they're advancing, when quantity rarely equals quality. Many fill their lives with superficial connections and empty conversations just to avoid the discomfort of silence. But a noisy circle isn't always a healthy one. You can be surrounded and feel empty because nothing around you aligns with your goals, values, or purpose. What defines a high-value circle isn't how many stand with you, but how they make you think, how they make you feel, and who you become beside them. The wise don't seek approval. They seek alignment. They don't want company to distract themselves, but to develop themselves. They would rather share a constructive silence with someone who challenges them than 1,000 empty words from those who don't understand their vision. The energy around you shapes your mind more than you realize. Negative people leave echoes in your thoughts. Their complaints become your doubts. Their fears become your limits. And if you're not careful, their frustrations turn into your beliefs. A toxic environment has a dangerous skill. It normalizes the small, justifies the mediocre, and turns the impossible into habit. You begin to think you're advancing when you're merely adapting to less. That's why protecting your environment must be as important as taking care of your body. The people around you directly influence your emotions, your motivation, and your decisions. You cannot aspire to a success-oriented mindset while surrounding yourself with a defeated one. You cannot speak of goals with those who live from excuses. You cannot evolve if your environment feeds on negativity. The mind cannot flourish in barren soil. Surround yourself with people who speak with intention instead of complaint, who look for solutions instead of problems, who inspire action instead of holding you back. As Carl Jung taught, the psyche grows where it feels supported, and people of real substance remind you of what you can become. They push you when you hesitate, correct you when you drift, and celebrate your progress with sincerity. A man of true value doesn't compete with his own. He elevates them. He doesn't envy you. He teaches you. He doesn't mock your failures. He helps you rise. That is the difference between a real bond and a superficial one. Empty men feel threatened by another's light. Valuable men feel inspired by it. Being surrounded by people like this reshapes your identity because you begin to see yourself with the same respect, strength, and ambition they see in you. But to attract people of high value, you must first become one of them. No powerful mind stays close to someone who lives in complaint, indecision, or a lack of commitment. The social law of attraction is simple. You attract what you are, not what you wish for. If you want disciplined people around you, build your own discipline. If you want friends who inspire you, become someone inspiring. If you want relationships based on respect, begin by respecting yourself. High-value people don't expect perfection. They look for coherence. and coherence is visible. It shows in how you speak, how you follow through, how you respond to conflict. When your actions match your words, the right connections begin to appear naturally, not because you chase them, but because your energy aligns with them. Your environment is never an accident. It's a reflection. If you surround yourself with men without direction, don't be surprised if you feel lost. If you spend your days with people who have no goals, don't question why you're not advancing. The environment you choose becomes the atmosphere where your thoughts grow. If you fill it with purpose, discipline, and clarity, you eventually become that. Relationships don't just accompany your life, they shape it. Every person you allow in or out is a decision about who you're willing to become. And when you choose to surround yourself with greatness, you choose to become greatness. The right environment doesn't just change you, it awakens you. A man who understands the value of his surroundings begins to live with higher consciousness. He stops seeking approval and starts seeking alignment. He cares less about how many people are around him and more about how many of them push him to grow. Few understand this truth. To elevate your life, you must release those who refuse to elevate theirs. And that hurts. It hurts because some of them are part of your history, but not your destiny. Sometimes love, habit, or misplaced loyalty make you hold on to bonds that keep you from moving forward. But if your environment demands that you lower your standards to stay, you're paying too high a price for the wrong company. Your loyalty to others should never be greater than your loyalty to your purpose. Surround yourself with people who speak of the future, not the past, who challenge you to be more disciplined, not to quit, who remind you to hold on to faith when life grows heavy. Those are the relationships that build you from within. A true friend doesn't save you from effort. He teaches you how to endure it. He doesn't give you excuses. He gives you reasons. He doesn't feed your ego. He strengthens your character. And if you have someone like that in your life, value them. They are rare. High-value people are not here to entertain you, but to transform you. And if they tell you something you don't like, listen anyway. Their honesty, even when it stings, is worth more than 1,000 empty compliments. No one grows through flattery. We grow through truth. If you're listening to this, it's because something in you wants more. And I want you to make a small commitment today. Subscribe to this channel if you want to keep strengthening your mind. And leave a comment. What kind of people do you want around you from now on? Write it down clearly, because that intention will shape the energy you attract. Don't underestimate the power of declaring your standard. When you make it public, your mind begins to align with it. Remember that you cannot build a big life inside a small circle. If your conversations teach you nothing new, you're in the wrong place. If you have to hide your dreams to avoid making others uncomfortable, you're with the wrong people. Real connection doesn't limit you. It frees you. It doesn't push you toward mediocrity. It pushes you toward excellence. The right people don't compete with you. They celebrate you. They don't question your growth. They walk with you through it. And when you find relationships like that, your life changes because you stop wasting energy defending yourself and begin using it to build yourself. There is nothing more powerful than an environment where each man wants the others to succeed. Because in that space, competition becomes inspiration, and one person's success becomes everyone's momentum. That is the true brotherhood of growth. Your environment determines not only your results, but also your identity. Without noticing it, you begin to act, think, and decide like the people you spend the most time with. That's why choosing your influences requires absolute clarity. If you live among disciplined, responsible, and focused men, your mind will naturally rise to that level. But if you spend your days surrounded by laziness, complaint, and conformity, your spirit will slowly dim until you wake up one day without ambition, direction, or strength. The people around you are the mental climate you live in. They can nourish you or they can drain you. And if that climate becomes toxic, no matter how strong you think you are, you will eventually breathe that air. That's why a man who values his purpose protects his environment as he protects his health. He avoids conversations that poison him, distances himself from the unreliable, and moves closer to those who remind him of what he can become. It's easy to say, you have big goals. What's hard is keeping them alive when no one around you shares them. If your friends laugh at your ambition, minimize your effort, or call you dramatic for wanting more, you are not in the right place. Don't let mediocrity disguised as friendship extinguish your fire. People with a diminished sense of inner worth often try to justify their inaction by making you believe you're the one who's exaggerating. They'll say life isn't only about working, that you're obsessed, or that you should relax a little more. But what they're truly revealing is, I can't stand watching you become something I never had the courage to attempt. Jung would say that this reaction isn't about you. It's a projection of their own unrealized potential. And if you listen to them, you'll soon find yourself exactly where they are, stuck, repeating the same stories, complaining about the same things, reliving identical days without growth. No one evolves inside an environment that mocks evolution. Surround yourself with people who talk about goals with the same enthusiasm others use to justify excuses. People who tell you, go for it. When others tell you to take it slow, don't let them shame your discipline. The people with inner strength don't fear effort. They honor it. They understand that discipline is not punishment, but structure, and consistency is not sacrifice, but freedom. And when you walk among people like that, something in you shifts. You become sharper, more intentional, more protective of your time. You stop seeking external motivation because their energy fuels you. They don't let you sink into comfort because their presence alone reminds you of your potential. These are the people who raise your standards simply by existing beside you. But building a circle like that never happens by chance. It starts by removing what no longer contributes to your growth, and then consciously seeking those who do. You might take time to find them. You might even walk alone for a while. But it's worth it, because once you do, you'll realize your environment is the most accurate predictor of your future. No one succeeds surrounded by people who refuse to grow, and no one fails when surrounded by those who push them toward their highest version. Don't settle for company. Seek connection. Don't look for someone who makes you comfortable. Look for someone who makes you capable. Comfort dulls the spirit. Challenge awakens it. And when your environment ignites you, your inner fire stops, depending on what happens outside. There's something that separates men who prosper from those who stagnate. The ability to release, without resentment, those who are not ready to walk beside them. Many fail not because they lack talent or vision, but because they cling to relationships that anchor them to their past. They try to pull everyone with them, expecting others to change at the same pace, not understanding that growth is individual. Not everyone is willing to evolve, and that's fine. You can't save someone who chooses not to move, but you can choose not to sync with them. Every time you force yourself to stay where you no longer belong. You surrender a piece of your future. And nothing is sadder than a man who sacrifices his purpose out of fear of being alone. Temporary loneliness hurts, but remaining in the wrong environment destroys you. Learn to distinguish between loyalty and bondage. Healthy loyalty uplifts. Blind loyalty consumes. Freeing yourself from environments that no longer serve you doesn't make you cruel. It makes you conscious. The time you spend maintaining empty ties is time you could be using to build your new self. You can't welcome valuable people while staying surrounded by those who aren't. It's like wanting fresh air in a closed room. You must open the window first. When you release what weighs you down, you begin attracting relationships aligned with who you are becoming. People with higher value don't show up by accident. They appear when you're ready to receive them. And that readiness requires raising your standards, refusing the bare minimum, and having the courage to say no to what doesn't resonate with your vision. It's not about judging anyone. It's about protecting the ground where your mind will grow. If you want an extraordinary life, you can't nourish it with ordinary company. Many men confuse love with obligation and friendship with attachment. But true love doesn't hold you back. It expands you. It doesn't demand that you dim your light so someone else won't feel small. It encourages you to shine brighter so they can awaken too. The right people will never be offended by your success. They'll celebrate it. And if someone leaves because you're improving, they were never truly on your side. Personal improvement filters relationships, and that filter is necessary. You might end up with fewer people, but those few will carry enormous weight in your life because the quality of your connections will determine the strength of your mindset. Surround yourself with those who don't fear your victories, who push you beyond your comfort zone, who believe in your purpose even when you hesitate. Those people are a mirror of your potential and an extension of your inner power. But remember this, attracting high-value people isn't about seeking perfection. It's about seeking authenticity. You don't need people without mistakes. You need people who learn from them. Don't look for saints. Look for the self-aware. Perfection inspires admiration, but authenticity creates connection. Men with higher value don't pretend to have everything under control. They admit their flaws, but never remain trapped in them. And when you stand close to people like that, you learn that real strength isn't the absence of falling, but the refusal to stay down. They teach through example, presence, and consistency. The way they live becomes a silent lesson. And slowly, you realize that the right environment not only pushes you to reach your goals, it shapes you to deserve them. No one grows alone. Growth belongs to the one who has the courage to choose wisely, who walks beside them. There is a principle that governs all personal evolution. Your environment doesn't just influence your mind, it defines your standards. If you surround yourself with people who accept the minimum, you'll eventually accept the same. If you live among men who demand more from themselves, you'll end up demanding more from yourself too. Standards are contagious, and if you don't raise yours consciously, the world will lower them for you. People with higher value do not tolerate mediocrity in any form. They don't justify broken promises. They don't celebrate effort without results. They don't seek comfort in excuses. Instead, they value action, commitment, and steady improvement. They don't compare themselves to others. They compare themselves to who they were yesterday. Their mindset is a compass that always points forward. Being close to people with real inner strength forces you to grow, not because they demand it, but because their presence awakens something in you. Carl Jung would say that their example confronts the parts of yourself you've ignored. A high-value environment doesn't reward comfort, it rewards action, coherence, and discipline. Their standard becomes the fire where your character is shaped. When you spend time with people who expect more from themselves, something inside you refuses to stay the same. Their focus, ambition, and integrity make you question whether you're truly giving your best. That discomfort is gold. It's the sign that you're in the right place, because mediocre circles soothe your limitations while strong ones expose them. Valuable people make you expand. Don't fear that pressure. Thank it. Your environment is a mirror that reflects your level of commitment. If everyone around you is disciplined, laziness becomes impossible to justify. If they all move with purpose, wasting time feels like betraying your own potential. But if those around you are conformists, even your mediocrity will look like success. That's why the mirror you choose matters. Surround yourself with people who choose truth over comfort, effort over excuses, integrity over approval. These men push you toward the version of yourself the world actually needs. The positive pressure of a strong environment can transform your life faster than years of isolated effort. And remember, your environment is also a reflection of your current identity. You attract what resonates with your mindset. If your environment doesn't inspire you, don't condemn yourself. Upgrade yourself. Raise your inner level, and your external relationships will adjust. When you stop talking about people and start talking about ideas, empty minds drift away. When you replace complaints with action, the lazy disappear. When you replace empty plans with real projects, false friends fade. That's not loss, it's cleansing. Every time you rise in consciousness, the noise drops and your environment aligns with your new vibration. And when you finally are surrounded by people who challenge you, you realize something profound. The right environment doesn't just help you reach your goals, it shapes the kind of person capable of sustaining them. A circle of high-value individuals recalibrates your mind. You stop thinking short-term and begin planning long-term. You stop discussing problems and begin analyzing strategies. You stop justifying emotions and start mastering them. The change is subtle at first, but it becomes visible in how you speak, decide, and respond. You become more selective with your time and more demanding with yourself because you witness a standard that raises your own. It's no longer about proving anything. It's about becoming coherent with the greatness you're building. Mediocrity becomes uncomfortable, and discipline becomes natural. That's the silent influence of an environment with purpose. High-value people don't pressure you with words. They transform you with their example. They don't tell you to work harder. You simply see them working. They don't tell you to follow through. You see them fulfilling their promises. Their existence is a constant reminder of what is possible. That energy is contagious. A space filled with responsibility and clarity pushes you out of procrastination and into action. Motivation becomes secondary. Commitment becomes the anchor. Every conversation becomes a lesson. Every interaction becomes fuel. Being surrounded by people who think clearly and live with intention pulls you out of reactive living and pushes you into creation. You stop waiting for life to happen. You begin shaping it. And once you enter that environment, mediocrity becomes unbearable. You detect excuses faster. You recognize destructive habits sooner. You start preferring silence over meaningless conversations and productive solitude over directionless company. pleasure loses its appeal, and purpose becomes your compass. High-value individuals understand that life is not all enjoyment. It's discipline, meaning, and service. They live consciously, aware of their time, energy, and influence. And by being around them, you absorb that same precision. The ideal environment is not only external, it reflects your inner structure. A chaotic mind attracts chaos. A clear mind attracts clarity. You cannot maintain elevated relationships while vibrating in insecurity or seeking validation. That's why, before seeking high-value people, you must become one. Strengthen your word, your energy, your focus. Learn to keep your promises, stay calm under pressure, and respond with intelligence rather than impulse. That inner solidity allows you to stand among great individuals without shrinking. And once you reach that point, the right connections appear naturally. Excellence recognizes excellence. In time, you realize that a high-value environment is not an elitist group, but a shared mindset. What unites them is the commitment to becoming their best selves. They know growth never stops, and that true wealth is consciousness. Being close to them teaches you that power is not loud, but consistent, that humility is not weakness, but mastery, that respect is not demanded, but inspired. And when you absorb that way of living, your life changes at its core. You become a powerful environment yourself. You become the kind of person whose presence elevates others. And then you understand that the goal was never just to surround yourself with greatness, but to become it. Being close to disciplined, conscious men leaves you no room to hide behind excuses. Their example forces you to confront your weaknesses instead of disguising them. That confrontation, as Jung taught, is how the shadow becomes integrated. Seeing greatness in others shouldn't trigger envy. It should awaken your own potential. High-value individuals don't compete with you. They show you what's possible. They teach by living, not by speaking. Their presence alone expands your horizon. The right form of admiration doesn't make you feel small. It pushes you to rise. The transformation isn't immediate. At first, their presence may intimidate you because it reveals what you haven't developed. Many run from that feeling because they prefer to be giants in a small room. But the wise understand that discomfort is the price of expansion. Compare yourself not to feel inferior, but to elevate your standard. When you channel that discomfort properly, the environment stops intimidating you and begins shaping you. You absorb their mindset until, without noticing, you start becoming one of them. You talk about solutions instead of problems, strategies instead of blame, truth instead of ego. It's a psychological shift, almost spiritual. The average mind stays on the surface. The disciplined mind digs into the root. If you have the humility to listen, you grow 10 times faster. Watching how they act under pressure, how they stay calm, how they keep moving without complaining, subtly rewires you. Admiration becomes integration. Their discipline becomes your habit. You make fewer excuses. You fulfill more promises. You work in silence. You help without seeking validation. You speak less and act more. And suddenly, you too become someone who elevates others. High-value individuals don't create followers. They awaken leaders. When that shift happens, you no longer depend on external motivation. Their mindset lives inside you. You become the one who inspires, who demands, who uplifts. That is the true purpose of surrounding yourself with greatness, to become part of it. Eventually, you understand that the people around you shape your destiny. Those who inspire you show what you can achieve. Those who drain you reveal what you must release. Choosing who stays in your life is a form of self-respect. Your environment stops being an accident and becomes a strategy. You walk with those who move forward. You speak with those who listen. You seek direction, not attention. The right environment doesn't make life easier. It makes you stronger. It doesn't prevent pain. It teaches you to transform it into power. High-value people won't save you from yourself, but they will remind you of who you are when you forget. Their presence keeps you aligned with your principles. If you lose focus, they call you back. If you hesitate, they remind you why you began. Such an environment is not luck. It's the result of becoming someone who vibrates at that level. Meaningful connections appear when your character is ready to sustain them. High-value men understand that their environment is part of their legacy. They surround themselves with those they can uplift and strengthen. At some point, personal growth becomes collective responsibility. When greatness shapes you, you naturally shape others. That chain has no limit. The strength you build influences people you will never meet. When a man changes his circle, he changes his destiny, and sometimes his society. One day, you'll look around and realize you're no longer with the same people, and you're no longer the same man. Every distance, every ending, every separation made sense. You didn't end up alone. You ended up with those who truly mattered. You'll see in your allies the determination you once dreamed of, and you'll understand that this path was never about surrounding yourself with success, but with truth, purpose, and value. When you choose wisely who walks beside you, life stops feeling like a struggle and becomes a conscious construction. Your environment becomes your engine, your mirror, and your strength. And that is the day you'll no longer need to look for high-value individuals, because you will have become one.